Let's get started with investing in youth engagement, how to do it and what you gain. So just to give you an overview, what you can expect. First, I'm going to give you a brief introduction of the International AIDS Society where I work. So, kind of what my background is. Then I'm going to speak a bit about meaningful youth engagement. And then we're going to go into the work that I do at the IAS Youth Hub and see kind of how we apply those principles and what you gain from getting youth involved. So the IAS, the International AIDS Society, is the largest association of HIV professionals with more than 13,000 members in over 170 countries. The IAS unites the global HIV response because we know progress happens when science, policy, and activism come together. We also host the most significant HIV conferences, as well as do our programmatic work, which the Youth Hub falls into. And our aims are to close scientific gaps, disseminate the latest research, and improve health services. And all of that, of course, is so that the HIV pandemic no longer presents a threat to public health and individual well-being. Our next conference will be AIDS 2026 in July next year. It will be hosted in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and we'd love to see you there. And maybe it's relevant to some of you that we have a conference scholarship program where we send people of all ages and from all around the world to the conference. There are priority groups, for example, young people. But yeah, this is a really exciting program that a colleague of mine is working on, where you not only get the in-kind financial support, but also engagement activities and a 2-year membership at the IAS. And if you're interested, applications open soon and close in January. If you want to learn more, join us for a webinar how to apply for a scholarship like this. And yeah, I'm going to continue, but if you want the link or more information, I can pop my email in the chat later if you want to learn more about that. Now we're going on to the youth engagement part of this presentation. So why should we engage young people? So first of all, let's look at the numbers. In 2022, young people represented 16% of the global population, but they represented 27% of new HIV acquisitions. And in 2022, 3.2 million young people were living with HIV. So we can see young people are disproportionately affected. Then we know that young people face specific barriers. That could be due to certain laws in the country of what young people are allowed to do, especially adolescents, what kind of care they receive, if a parent has to get involved. A lot of young people might not have the resources to go to a clinic, or they face specific stigma because of their young age. So we know there are just so many different specific barriers that young people face, so they need targeted initiatives that are just targeted to their need. Then what I think is really important, young people have crucial expertise that is often overlooked. Young people aren't just the beneficiaries. Young people bring something very valuable to the table. They know better how to engage their peers. They often, not all, but often have more digital skills than maybe older people have, and they know how to reach a wide group of people, and also in a more fun way, in a more engaging way, where maybe if this was done by an older person, it could be just not as impactful, and is not as with knowing the pulse of the time, let's say. And lastly, but most importantly, it would be unethical. The approach, nothing about us without us, applies also to young people. You need to have young people engaged if you really want to have an impact, and if you want to do meaningful work. Then, where should young people be engaged? What topic? At what stage of the process? And here we have a very easy answer, which is everywhere. Every aspect that links to young people need to be engaged, and they need to be engaged at every stage of the process. Here we see a scale of from youth consulted to youth as leaders. So you should aim to engage youth throughout. So youth should be consulted, young people should contribute, people should be partners, and they should be leaders. You can't just stay in the left corner and say, we've talked to some young people, they think it's great, and then say, okay, we've done our work, let's move on. This is not what meaningful youth engagement is. So while there's nothing wrong with working with young people as beneficiaries, of course, we also want that, that's still required. You also want to collaborate with youth and really see them as partners. And then, of course, what we love to see the most is young people as leaders, because they are capable of doing so and do just very impactful work as leaders in their initiatives. How do we do that? So these are just the basics, and I hope none of this is completely news to you, but sometimes we see that even the basics aren't implemented. So what do we want to do? We, of course, want to keep young people safe, always. This is always important. In all the work that you do, you want to ensure the young people that you work with and that you serve are being safe, or are being kept safe. And this might also sound obvious, but value the contributions that young people do. And that goes both in terms of valuing their expertise, their opinions, their feedback, valuing their time, valuing their networks, so valuing everything they bring to the table. Then, again, this might sound obvious, you want to have a diverse group of young people represented, because young people are just very diverse and have a lot of intersecting identities, so you want to ensure that you have that represented. Then you want to support young people so that they have the tools that they need to actually engage and lead in your work. You want to build partnerships with young people, with their networks, and that also links to the second point, which is investment in young people and youth-led organizations. So you don't want young people to be engaged in one point. You've asked a group of, let's say, a very diverse group of young people once how your project is and what they think, and then that's it. No, you want to build partnerships that last a long time, and you support young people and youth-led organizations with a long-term aim, where you really show the sustainability of that work. Because a lot of youth-led organizations are underfunded. They have more difficulties receiving funding, sometimes because they might not have the standing relationships with certain donors, or just because they're underfunded, they have then trouble getting new resources in. You have a lot of turnover just because people age out. So it's even more crucial to invest in these youth-led organizations. And then, of course, be accountable to young people. That also then speaks to the point I had earlier about valuing their contributions. You want to ensure that you present your work and the data that you have and that you're collecting in a way that young people have access to it and can challenge it and give you feedback on what you've done, what you could do better. So yeah, don't just ask for feedback to hear what you want to hear, then just actually, again, value what young people have to say if you take this seriously. Then some steps, and again, these should be quite straightforward and easy, but let's start with the most important one: pay young people. Again, you want to value their contribution. You want to see them as real partners. If you would pay another person, why aren't you paying young people? Their time is valuable, their contributions are valuable, and you can't just sell the work that you need them to do as valuable experience. That can be part of it. It can be a great experience and learning opportunity for young people, but that can't just be it. And that also speaks to the point that you want a diverse group. And if you want a diverse group, not all of them can work for free. So yeah, just remember that. Then we want young people in decision-making spaces. So reserve a seat for young people in decision-making spaces. And not just for that, but in general, share simple guidance. In general, we shouldn't use as much jargon and we shouldn't use as much like fancy buzzwords or what it might be. Just be clear, be simple, what is required, how can you help young people to really make the most of the opportunities that you're providing. And the same goes with the institutional inductions and mentoring. While all age groups support our benefit from those, they're especially important when you do work with young people. And yeah, so just think of that, and maybe all of your activities will benefit from that, and all of the age groups that are represented. And then you also, in terms of like supporting young people to really set their best foot forward, offer targeted capacity building, so that yeah, it's just they can do the best work that they can. And then two important things also to consider is there will be a quicker turnover than in other spaces, just because people age out, and that's a good thing. But you want to have processes in place. You don't want to start engaging a group of people when they're 22, and then you work with them for 15 years, and then you remember, oh no, actually, these aren't the young people of today anymore. And then you start again with people in their early 20s. No, you want a continuous growth where also there's a continued mentoring and learning process going on. And then you also don't want people to be left hanging or hoard spaces in the youth youth space, so have some specific pathways where people can go when they age out. Now, what do we do at the IAS Youth Hub, and how do we apply some of these principles? So the Youth Hub is the program at the IAS where we support young people to develop innovative ideas and effective approaches to address the challenges young people living with HIV and affected by HIV face. And the first program I'm going to talk about is the Youth Hub Seed Grant program, my personal favorite, where 5 young people are selected to receive a seed grant to implement an activity or a project over 6 months. They receive capacity building throughout. That's, for example, monitoring, evaluation, and learning, reporting, communications, and they receive networking opportunities. As well as a scholarship to travel to the conference we have that year, and they're included in the Young Leaders program. And an easy step you can apply, for example, one of the things I said earlier was that in each of the young leaders have to submit a budget. And so a certain amount should, the young leader is asked to put a certain amount as a stipend for them to implement this activity, so that their time throughout the grant is also valued. Then the Young Leaders program that I've just spoken about is our conference program just for young people, where they meet featured speakers and IAS leadership. We do an innovation workshop. We have a career forum and a networking. And here it is also really great to see the learning that happens within the cohort, but also the intergenerational learning that we can see, where young leaders challenge our leadership and also our speakers. And there are many interesting conversations coming out of it. Then what we have at every AIDS conference is the Pitch Perfect Young Leaders Take the Mic, where young people pitch a project to a panel. Often it includes donors, UN representatives, IAS Governing Council, Youth Hub Grant Committee, and a youth representative. And then they receive feedback on their initiative. Then we have Youth Hub workshops, where each year 10 former young leaders implement a workshop in their community. This, for example, was a young leader in Nepal last week, where he focused on the intersection of the queer community, people living with disability, and the HIV response. And so here, for example, the same as with the grant program, but also where our workshops, we don't give a focus or a specific thing we're looking for. We ask the young leaders what is required in your community, what is a blind spot, or what do you think what would your community benefit from? And then they work around that, and we link them to local institutions where we can, and support them to implement what is most relevant to their communities. And it's been amazing to see what the young people can pull off in a short amount of time, and with limited resources. It's really incredible. Then we have our virtual events. So we focus on grant and scholarship applications, public speaking, career development, gender and prevention. And again, you can sign up to our newsletter or check our website if you want to see what events are coming up. Otherwise, you can also always go to the IAS Youth Hub and see what's coming up. We also develop courses, because we also know that Our programs are quite competitive, so not everybody can take part in the Young Leaders program or the Youth FC grant program. So we also want to ensure we're providing a lot of our resources for free. So on IS Plus, you can learn. These are the 5 courses we currently have developed. There are 2 more coming next year, and we encourage you to check that out. And the last 2 ones that we did were the gender course and the mental health course. Especially would encourage you to check those 2 out. Especially the mental health course has some testimonials and like some stories from our young leaders in there. And again, to go back to the point earlier, might sound obvious, but it isn't sometimes. Of course, they were paid for their contributions to the course, which yeah, it's just something I want to hone down on. And here is IS Plus, if you want to check that out for more free resources. And then I just want to have some time to go through some examples of what happens when you engage youth. And what incredible work young people are doing. So we have here Ila Shkoda. Sorry, there's a typo in there. It should be Shkoda. She was a young leader last year, and she developed a chatbot for young people living in Belarus and those in exile with knowledge on HIV, sexual and reproductive health and rights, and also on mental health and legal rights. And what was really special, like a special win in that project, what we hadn't anticipated was that, so in Belarus, they decades ago, they put in place legislation that people were classified as per their the stage of their HIV, and then certain groups, certain stages weren't allowed to adopt a child. And since then, also the landscape of medication and treatment has changed so much that a couple that wanted to adopt got to reached out to the chatbot. And because when people needed some sessions with either a mental health expert or a legal expert, they were referred. So it didn't just stay within the chatbot. So this couple went to a legal expert and asked if their HIV status or their categorization of their HIV could be changed because they're living healthy lives, and that was they were able to do that and then adopted a child, which I wasn't expecting from a chatbot that would be an outcome. But yeah, it's just and Eva has done that with just such a small team. And she pulled something beautiful together. Then my other star example is Asha Oluso, who you know. And Asha, could you give us an overview of kind of what you're doing as part of the Youth FC Grant program?
Yeah, so for me, I'm doing a 2-day gathering for African, Caribbean, and Black youth living with HIV. This is building off of my youth group that me and my colleague Salam Hogos created to address kind of like the big gaps in support and health when it comes to young people living with HIV who are African, Caribbean, Black. And so one thing we were noticing is that they're falling through the cracks. Another thing is like HIV criminalization, was a big issue for them as well. So our idea was basically to have this 2-day event, bring youth from all over Ontario, originally all over Ontario, but we got lucky in the sense that we got a little bit more funding. And so we opened it up for youth in Canada, but also we have like, I think 8 or 9 youth who are coming from the US, who are African, Caribbean, Black. And then it's just a wellness day. And then we are also connecting, we are having real-time referrals and tabling there so that they can see the service providers in person, actually get to know what they're doing, and then sign up and do the intakes. And the amazing thing about this is that we are lucky to get legal, a few legal places to come. We got lucky and we got a few mental health places to come, like CAMH, and so yeah, we have gotten a lot of support actually. And one of the big things that I'm very excited about is we are having the Black Youth Health Hub, which is something that a lot of youth don't know about, but it's like a wraparound support done by LAMP here in Toronto. And then also we have amazing speakers. Dr. Mona Lutfi is going to do HIV, understanding HIV, and taking on your questions, and all of that. We have anti-Black racism sessions. We have youth leaders running their own sessions. We have a bit of dancing and healing circles. So it's all a bunch of stuff, and it's surrounded by connecting them to care, but also having a good time healing and supporting each other. So yeah. Oh, it's happening this weekend, by the way.
Thank you, Asha. And yeah, just an amazing example again, what can happen when just young people lead. So I'm excited for that event. Then another example is from Xiaoxi Yin and Wai Huan Zhang. They developed a picture book, the beautiful 2 picture books that you can see that I have in my office, a friend in my shadow, and that can be used in schools to explain how HIV works, how the transmission works, what treatment does, and the U equals U principle, and it's really like tailored to very young children, and just beautifully illustrated. And then my last example is Nomande Ngema. She was also, she spoke at the closing session of our conference this year, where you can see her here. And she earlier this month hosted a hackathon for young women living with HIV to reimagine, design, and pitch creative solutions to the challenges they face. And it's been a huge success, especially getting young people living with HIV involved. And again, not just the beneficiaries, but really those who spark the change that is required, and the specific needs and solutions that they just know way better than anyone else, and just to create that space. No wonder, yeah, posted that. And I think that is it from me. Just yeah, my main point that I want to bring is that it's worth it. It's incredible what young people are doing around the world. I think there are a lot of misconceptions and myths about what it means to work with young people. I have been so blessed with the people I have worked with, and people again and again are surprised by what the Youth Hub and all of its young leaders are able to pull off. But that is just due to the incredible work that the young people do. And it's just an incredible privilege to work with all of them. So yeah, and thank you so much for inviting me. And yeah, share that with all of you.